It's finally here. Welcome everyone to Royal Ascot 2023. My name's Graham Cunningham. Thrilled to be joined by two friends and colleagues. On the far side, key member of the Sky Sports Racing team, veteran broadcaster Simon Mapletoft, and in the centre, one of the rising stars of the Racing Post team, Maddy Playle. Maddy, you look fabulous. Simon, you scrub up pretty well. It's going to be a tremendous week here at Royal Ascot. First of all, Simon, what's the story, potential story, you're most looking forward to this week?
Graham, so many fantastic storylines to look forward to. For me, being a Ryan Moore fan, I'm looking forward to his tremendous book of rides. Of course, 9 times leading rider here over the years. He could easily make it 10 with horses like Paddington, Luxembourg, and of course River Tiber, who is being touted as potentially Aidan's best 2-year-old at this stage.
Maddy, what's the key story for you?
Yeah, I'm such a big international fan, Graham. We know Royal Ascot is the place to come to see that real competitive global sport. Looking forward to seeing horses from Australia, America, Hong Kong, of course, everywhere in the globe covered. We're going to see who comes out on top.
And we can't guarantee all the winners, but it's our job to guide you through 35 races, the first of which on Tuesday is a tremendous contest. It is the Queen Anne Stakes, won by Frankel, Goldikova, Baid, Palace Pier, Canford Cliffs. Let's have a look at the runners and riders. It's a big day for Godolphin. Charlie Appleby saddles 2 key players here. Modern Games, bound to be very popular, and more than a second string, Native Trail. But Frankie and the Gosdens are here with Inspiral. So impressive at Royal Ascot 12 months ago. Chindit has a chance at a big price. But let's get stuck into this race. And let's start with Modern Games. I think we can see him in the QE2 here at Ascot last October. He ran very well. This is what he's all about. He tries hard, wasn't quite good enough on the day, went on to win at the Breeders' Cup, and Maddy, he gained his 5th Group 1 success this spring in the Lockinge Stakes at Newbury. He's a high-quality horse.
He really is. Toughness, consistency, are real hallmarks of what Modern Games can do. He's uncomplicated, he stays very well, and he's just classy. I think perhaps we've been guilty of underestimating what he can do because we've seen so many of his top-level successes abroad, but that speaks for his versatility, and this will be an acid test for him, and hopefully he'll be able to get the recognition he deserves if coming clear on this global stage.
Simon, more than one string to the Charlie Appleby Godolphin bow here. I know you're a big fan of stablemate Native Trail.
Yeah, Modern Games a real pro, as you say, 5 times a Group 1 winner. I just think things fell in his lap in the Lockinge. They went really hard early, played to his strengths on that occasion. He might not get the run of the race this time, but I think Native Trail could. Second start following a wind operation. He was really rusty, this horse, at Newmarket, but was still expected to run a big race. I think he'll come on for it. And James Doyle, I think, has a really plumb chance on what the market suggests is the Godolphin second string.
Let's turn the clock back 12 months, Maddy. Inspiral was first time out in the Coronation Stakes. She was up against some high-class fillies, and she absolutely dismantled them. When she's right, she's so good.
Yeah, and this is the big point of the race for me. If she can produce that one performance that we saw last season, then she should be on top here. She's got the star quality, she's got the class. She's not straightforward, as we saw in the QE2 at the end of last season. She broke slowly, and her dam wasn't terribly straightforward either as she got to the latter stages of her career, but we know she's got that star quality, that turn of foot and that engine, and I think if you can trust her to put the one performance together, she's the most talented horse in the race.
You have faith in Frankie. I'd like to put in a good word at a big price here for Chindit. Yes, he was only 4th in this race last year, but I think his latest performance, when second to Modern Games and the Lockinge, was probably a career best. Simon, he had a nibble at the winner late on, just tried to take a nip out of him. Is he biting off more than he can chew on Tuesday?
Well, form suggests he is, but he's one of these horses who turns up and runs his race. So if things fall his way, you could certainly get involved. If you want something at a big price, then he's a good man to have on your side. But for me, there are classier individuals, Graham, to take the race with.
Wonderful start to day 1. Simon, your numbers and your main tip for the Queen Anne?
Without a shadow of a doubt, it's number 9, Native Trail for me. For the places 8, 7 and 12.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Inspiral. I'm trusting her and Frankie to get the job done. 12, followed by 7 to 5, Modern Games, Berkshire Shadow and Light Infantry. I think those latter 2 could give you a good run for your money place-wise at prices.
Looking for value in race 1. I think number 4, Chindit, can run a big race at a big price, followed by 7, 9, 8, Queen Anne. spectacular start to Royal Ascot 2023. Race 2 on Tuesday is a big 2-year race, the Coventry Stakes, 1,200 metres, and the key man, history tells us, is Aidan O'Brien. Winning one race at Royal Ascot is tough. He's trying to win the Coventry for the 10th time. So let's have a look at the key players. Hey presto, Aidan is front and centre with River Tiber unbeaten so far. Main rivals, well, who's called Asadna. He impressed the clock watchers massively when he won at Ripon. Others to mention, well, we've got Army Ethos. More on him in a moment, but they're your runners and riders. Simon Mapletoft, River Tiber is the horse in question. 2 dominant wins over 5 furlongs. I know you're a fan.
Definite fan. This horse has been touted and regarded as the main juvenile player at Ballydor for some time. I think that's going to come to fruition this week in the Coventry. It's been a fairly low-key approach. Won his maiden in good style, stepped up into conditions company, again went through the gears. The big question, I think, for him, Graham, is the ground. And, will he handle fast ground if indeed he encounters that on Tuesday? I think he will. You look at the horse, the way he moves, he's a great moving horse, a real athlete. And I think the stiff 6 here at Ascot is absolutely tailor-made for him.
What do you make of him, Maddy?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the trip is going to bring out lots of improvement, strong pace. He'll be closing strongly at the line, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I think he's a big player. But whirlpool betting is often, nearly always actually, about value. We're looking for a horse who could run really well at a price here. And I believe you have one, Maddy, who has a connection with last year's meeting.
Yeah, strong connection, the same jockey, trainer and owner. I'm with Army Ethos for Archie Watson and Holly Doyle. And we've only seen him the once, that was at Ayr, and he put up a nice performance, looking for all the while as if he wasn't being really put to the sword first time out. I think there's a lot of improvement there. And you know something about him, Simon?
I do indeed. I write Holly Doyle's blog, of course, for Sky Sports on a regular basis, and she's had some very, very encouraging words to say about this horse. She won on him at Ayr. She said he's been a sleepy individual. He's taken an age to wake up. But since that win, Maddy, she said he's turned into a racehorse. He really is a man now. He knows what it's all about. His homework's been great. For that reason, he's definitely on my shortlist, and I think he's a really sound selection.
Yeah, I think he was carrying plenty of condition that day at Ayr, so you would expect a lot of improvement from.
Keep an eye on Army Ethos. 2 more horses we should definitely mention. The first, and it's always great to see American raiders in the big Royal Ascot races. Wesley Ward has excelled here. The one race he hasn't won over sprint distances is the Coventry Stakes. He comes here this time with an interesting one. His name is Fandom. He's only run once, and he showed tremendous speed to win on his debut at Keeneland, winning by 6.5 lengths. He's got British roots by showcasing. I think he was bought in Britain, but here comes here with tactical speed, lots and lots of it. So he's one we should mention. And last but not least, chaps, we should definitely mention Asadna, who is polarizing opinion here in Britain. But there is no question whatsoever that first time out at Ripon, he put up a tremendous performance on the clock, Simon. Where do you stand with Asadna?
Yeah, nice horse. I saw that win at Ripon. It was, of course, visually impressive. I think just take the visual away from it. If you look at the times, it was actually faster than the older horse handicaps on the day. So that tells you something about a horse who lacks experience but has, it seems, all the talent in the world. George Bowie, incredibly bullish about his chances. And yeah, he's definitely another one for the shortlist.
Okay, let's go numbers. I know you're a River Tiber man, Simon. Give me a top 4.
Yeah, number 17, River Tiber for me. For the places, I'm going 12, 2 and 3.
Maddy?
Yeah, lots that we've mentioned in with the shout, but I'm going to stick with Army Ethos. 2, followed by 17, River Tiber, 3, Asadna, and 11, Flag of St. George.
I am not going to desert Aidan O'Brien here. I'm with Simon. Number 17, River Tiber on top, followed by 3, 10 and 8. That's the Coventry Stakes, all wrapped up, hopefully. Back in Group 1 territory for race 3 on Tuesday. This is the 5 furlong, 1,000 metre, blink and you'll miss it, King Stand Stakes. Big field. Let's have a look at the key players. Fantastic to see a star Aussie filly here in Coolangatta. She was a game, gutsy winner of the Lightning Stakes. Plenty others to consider though. The Princess Royal, Highfield Princess, is here. Back to Royal Ascot. Tremendous season in Britain and abroad last year. We have to talk about the likes of Mitbahi and Manakan as longer priced horses and dramatised, of course. More on her in a moment. That's your runners and riders. Let's start with the flying Aussie filly, Coolangatta. And Maddy, Me and Simon haven't seen her yet, but you have.
Yeah, I saw her on Wednesday. There was an international gallops morning, and she ripped down the 5 furlongs with the 65 rated filly So Chic of Charlie Hills. Look, we know this is a filly of serious ability. She's a 2-time Group 1 winner. She's a winner over a straight track at 5 furlongs. She shows lots of early speed. I would give a note of caution for punters, though. She did look very lively in the prelims. There wasn't many people about earlier, and she's going to have to really deal with the occasion and everything that brings. She will be ponied, so hopefully that will help her, but she looked quite long in her coat as well compared to Cannonball, the 2 who we'll also mention.
Let's have a look at action in the Lightning Stakes. Now, Simon, the Lightning Stakes has been a tremendous springboard for Aussie races. Maddy won't remember she was here, it's way too long ago, but she was here, Takeover Target, Scenic Blast, Miss Andretti, Nature Strip last year. If you can win the Lightning Stakes, as she did in gutsy fashion, you are a bona fide contender for this race.
You've got to really envy the Australians. They certainly know how to produce a top-class sprinter. They've shown that here year after year. And yep, she is lightning quick. There's no doubt about that. She's tough. She wants to win. A couple of little negatives coming into the race for her. They were quite public about the fact that her last piece of work at home was a little bit disappointing, a little bit flat. And of course, you know, for an Aussie filly, it's the winter now. So she's probably out of her comfort zone in that sense. We might have seen that with Black Caviar to some degree, although she was talented enough to get the job done. So a couple of little negatives against some battle-hardened performers.
Great to see her here. James McDonald, the jockey, seems full of confidence. I know you two are like-minded here, and I get it completely. Highfield Princess was a sensation, a real rags to riches story last year. She was the dominant 5 furlong filly around in Britain and Ireland. We can have a quick look at her in the Breeders' Cup. It was the end of a very busy season. She ran very well, wasn't quite good enough after that busy spell. But when we look at York in the Nunthorpe Stakes, when we look first time out this season, Maddy, in the Duke of York Stakes under a Group 1 penalty over 1,200 metres, she is a super consistent, quick filly.
She is. Those 3 Group 1s were fantastic to see last season and really showed her quality. And don't forget, she is a winner at the Royal Meeting. She won the Buckingham Palace Stakes over 7 furlongs. So we know she's got the stamina, we know she's got the speed, and I think there was everything to like about her return at York. She travelled the best. Just got a little bit tired close home against a very, very good filly who would also be involved if she was running here. I think she's definitely the one to beat.
Simon, your thoughts on Highfield Princess, then roll us into dramatised at this meeting last year?
Well, Jason Hart, I know, was absolutely gutted to get beaten in the Duke of York. He put it down to the penalty, essentially. He said she won't be beaten again. He's bullish about this mare, and rightly so, because she took him on some adventure last year, those 3 consecutive Group 1s, of course. I think she's got everything in her favour here. She'll be fine with the ground. She likes to race prominently. I think that could be an advantage here. The stiff 5 furlongs is right up her street as well. For me, she's the best horse in the race, quite simply.
I haven't seen many who can match her for speed out of the gate and getting right in the position she wants to be in a second or two. Tell me about Dramatised, because quite a few of the bankers at last year's Royal Ascot obliged. Dramatised was one of them, and she was very good in the Queen Mary Stakes.
Well, Yorkshire has a pretty strong hand, of course. Highfield Princess trained up in Yorkshire, as indeed is Dramatised by Carl Burke. The 2 stables aren't that far apart on the grand scheme of things. This 3-year-old is very exciting, and she showed in the Temple on reappearance at Haydock that she has most definitely trained on. That's always a concern, isn't it, with these young horses? But she was exciting last year. Just loved the way she could travel. She seemed the better the race, the better she could perform. Really likes a good strong tempo. And I think she's a serious player here. I just feel that she's probably going to give best to the older, more experienced mare in Highfield Princess, who does have the form in the book as well. But I think as the year goes on, Dramatised is going to be a serious horse to follow, and I think she'll prove that in the King's Stand.
Maddy, quick line on Dramatised and her Temple Stakes win at Haydock. There was no question there was a golden highway on the Stand Trail that day.
Yeah, there was definitely a bias, but nevertheless, we know she's a really fast filly. We know Connections have very strong belief in her, and she is progressing. She's taking those step forwards, but she needs to. Another one I'd like to throw in the mix is Frankie Dettori's mount, Monacan. He's a 4-year-old. He's from the right age range. These sprinters often need a few years really to hit their stride. Had excuses when we last saw him on very soft ground at Newmarket. This will be more his bag. He's a multiple course and distance winner. I think he's going to run a big race.
It's not often that Frankie Dettori flies a little under the radar. I think he might be here, I agree with Maddy. Madakan has a very strong Ascot record. He was up against 2 race-fit rivals in the Palace House, and he was arguably on the wrong side of the track. In short, he's getting better and better with experience. He's going to be on top for me. I'll come to your numbers in a second. I'm going to go 6, Manakan, 12, Highfield Princess. How can you not like her? 10, Coolangatta, the Aussie star, and 7, Mitbahi, who could represent a bit of value at really big prices. But Frankie and number 6, Manakan on top for me. Over to you, Simon.
Yeah, drawn right next door to Highfield Princess as well, so he could get a really nice toe into the race. But it's John Quinn's mare for me, Highfield Princess, horse number 12, Dramatised, number 19, Manakan, number 6, and Coolangatta to make the frame, number 10.
Maddy?
Me and Simon are in agreement on Highfield Princess, so that's 12, followed by 6, Manakan, 14, Twilight Gleaming. I think she's quite a dark horse for Wesley Ward. And I'm going to put the 2 in as well, Cannonball for the Aussies.
One of the races of the week. Kingston Stakes, race 3 on Tuesday. Race 4 at Royal Ascot on day 1 is Group 1, mile, 3-year-olds at St James's Palace Stakes, and it represents what we all want to see, a clash of the 2,000 guineas winners. Runners and riders coming up, key players, no question. Chaldean for Frankie Dettori and Andrew Balding, Newmarket winner, and the ever-improving Paddington. Aidan O'Brien has a tremendous record in this, and Paddington has come through the handicap route to make his presence felt in the Irish Guineas. Others to mention, but they're the 2 key players. Let's start with Chaldean, Simon. I think this horse is a little underrated still. It's a strange thing to say, but he really began to win me over at Newmarket with what was just a really, really high-quality performance.
Yeah, I agree, and you've got to take that performance in isolation. Now, a lot of people, a lot of experts, if you like, have really kind of dissed the race and said it was a poor renewal. It wasn't a great 2,000 guineas, but that horse, as I say, take him in isolation, did everything very professionally. He's effectively unbeaten in all races he's completed, and I think for that reason he might just be a little bit better value than he should be. So he's definitely high on the short list, but I think I've got one to beat him.
Maddy, he gets on the speed, Chaldean, and he runs hard and he finds plenty, and Dettori's on board. What's not to like?
Yeah, I would offer a note of caution. I think obviously that 2,000 guineas was a while ago now. It came on very soft ground and it was a slightly muddling affair. We've seen horses from further back come out and run very well in the race. August Rodin, Little Big Bear of Aidan O'Brien's were very disappointing, high-profile examples. He's very solid, but I'm not yet convinced that he's the absolute standout superstar in this division. We'll find out.
I sense that we've got fans of maybe Paddington and Cicero's gift here. Who's Paddington and who's Cicero's?
Right, well, I'm Paddington. This horse, again, has been brilliantly produced by his trainer, by Aidan O'Brien. Started out in a handicap of a mark in the 90s back in March. They were keen to get him out early. They needed to get some experience into this horse. He's been big and backward, but he's gone through the rankings and he's done it with some style. Still looked the unfinished article for me in the Irish Guineas. He missed the break. He was a little bit lucky to overcome that and get a decent position in the race, which enabled him to go and win it. But there's so much more to come from this horse. His rating has soared since the start of the season, since the spring. I think he's got plenty more to offer. So he's a real improver coming into this race. And for me, he's going to give Ryan Moore a very exciting spin.
With or against him, Maddy?
I'm against him. I'm with Cicero's gift. I think similar comments apply. We've only seen him 3 times and he's looked really, really good. The latest at Goodwood, where he showed that electric turn of foot. I think he's the sort of horse where the stronger pace, the better race, the more we can see from him. Undoubtedly, he has lots to find on the figures. He hasn't faced anything like this field yet. But I think he's got the raw ability to really challenge the top contenders here.
Royal Scotsman, named after a famous old-school locomotive. Really good last year. Hit the buffers behind Paddington in the Irish Guineas. Let's go back to Royal Ascot last year, Simon. He was a high-quality juvenile Royal Scotsman. He ran very well in the Coventry.
He ran well, and of course that race, the form of that race, turned out to be pretty strong as well. He's done little wrong. He's the apple of his trainer's eye. There's no doubt about that. For me, I think he's going to turn out to be more of a Group 2, Group 3 horse as the year progresses. Sadly, he's had problems with his feet. That came to the fore in Ireland last time. They hope they've got that right. I don't know if the fast ground is going to play to his strengths given those issues. For me, it's a watching brief with him.
Simon, your first 4?
Well, for me, it's got to be Paddington. For Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien, horse number 8. I'm going to go Chaldean for the place.
Chaldean.
Number 6, Isaac Shelby. And Mostab Shear, I think, can step forward, number 7.
Maddy?
Yeah, he's also involved in my 4. I'm going to stick with Cicero's Gift, the 3, followed by 1 Chaldean, 7 Mustabshire, and then 8 Paddington.
Newmarket Guineas winner for me in the St James's Palace. 1 Chaldean on top. Back up from 8 Paddington, 7 Mustabshire, and 3 Cicero's Gift. Crackerjack race for the St James's Palace. Well, Royal Ascot isn't a sprint. It's a marathon 5 days. And the next race we're going to talk about is a marathon. It's pretty much 2.5 miles for the Ascot Stakes. Big field of handicappers, runners and riders here. And the obvious starting point is number 5, Bring on the Night. Second in this race last year, hasn't run since, but Willie Mullins looks to have laid him out. Number 2, Calling the Wind, has an excellent Ascot record. And number 6, a horse with no name, Nicky Henderson, high quality jumps form. Zoffy is super consistent, and Novel Legend is on the upgrade. A couple more we'll get to shortly, but the obvious contender to start with is Bring on the Night, Maddy. Let's go back 12 months to the Ascot Stakes. He did everything right bar win, and the horse who beat him, Coltrane, has gone from strength to strength since. If Bring on the Night is in this form, he's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, he oozed class in that performance last season, and as you've hinted upon there, Coltrane is one of the leading players for the Gold Cup, of course. Looked as good as ever, if not better, when winning the Cigaro on his seasonal reappearance. So Willie Mullins, we know he likes to target this race. Bring on the Night should be cherry ripe for it.
Willie Mullins, just tell people, Simon, a little about his record over jumps this season and his record on the flat and his strike rate recently, which has been off the scale.
Yeah, it takes all before him, of course, over jumps, and it seems on the flat as well when he chooses to switch to that kind of code. He's got a tremendous knack of producing these dual-purpose horses that can excel over hurdles, but when they do perform in big handicaps on the level, they can do the business as well. And this horse is certainly, I think, in that category. We've got to take fitness on trust, of course. Haven't seen him since this time last year, but as Maddy said, the form's in the book. 3/4 of the length behind Coltrane, who's gone on to do some wonderful things, and now a group winner in his own right. He might just be a shade vulnerable coming back off a break to something that could be a little bit better handicapped, but he's no doubt a real player.
Mullins' record with horses off a long break is spectacular. So he's going to be a very strong favourite, and I think he's absolute key player. Let's talk about 1 or 2 others. We need value to get the QPs and the Quinellas, etc. You like one down at the bottom of the weights who was impressive at Chester.
Yes, I do, and I think one of the key points in this race, you've got to go for trainers. Ian Williams won this race in 2019 with the Grand Vizier, back in 2021, won it again with Rashun. He's got loads of runners this time. Zinc White is the one that I'm preferring. The grey, he's had a lot of time off, he is fragile, but he showed what he could do at Chester with a really dominant performance over an improving, in-form horse. I think he could shock a few here. I think he's got a lot of talent, and he sneaks right in at the bottom of the weight.
Simon, what else should we mention besides these 2?
Well, we talk about Willie Mullins being a great dual-purpose trainer. I think Ian Williams is a pretty good one as well, and Maddy likes one of his. I also like an Ian Williams runner. This time it's Law of the Sea, who was out in Dubai with Bupat Seamar. Hasn't been with the stable that long, but you might argue was a bit unlucky not to win the Chester Cup. Franny Norton rode him that day. He got no kind of run, finished 4th. It was a decent run. He just got intimidated deep into the race at Haydock last time, finishing 2nd. But I think the key thing with him, Graham, is the step up in trip. I think he'll relish the extra half mile.
A couple more to mention. We've touched on the fact that jumps trainers have a super record in this race. Nicky Henderson has won it in the past. He saddles a mare called A Horse with No Name. A little bit of background information here. When I was at Newbury on Lockinge Day, one of A Horse with No Name's owners went over to Ryan Moore and said, I hope you'll be riding our filly at Royal Ascot. Ryan is on Bring on the Night. He had options, but A Horse with No Name was really good at York in the back end of last season, and she's got a good hurdles win on a dance card recently.
She has, yeah, listed win over hurdles. So again, she's a classy sort of horse who travels well, will relish again every yard of the distance. For me, maybe just a bit high in the weights these days. Yes, impressive at York, ran a good race at Newbury as well, but I think maybe the handicapper could be in charge.
I'd like to nominate another one, if that's okay, Graham. Irish Lullaby will be taking a big step up in trip for Jessica Harrington. She, of course, has had much success at this meeting. I think this filly is really going to be suited by this extreme stamina test. We haven't totally seen what she's capable of yet.
What were you doing when you were 17 years of age? If you can answer, I was riding a fancied horse at Royal Ascot, your name is Billy Lochnan. And that's what he does this Tuesday, because the Wonder Apprentice, who's been shooting the lights out this year, has been booked by Richard Hughes for a horse called Calling the Wind, who's got a very strong Ascot record. And that £3 claim is very helpful. Numbers, Simon, this is the first of our brain-burning handicaps.
Yeah, this is a fascinating race, but for me it's number 17, Law of the Sea. For the placers, number 5, Bring on the Night, number 11, Zoffy, and number 6, A Horse with No Name.
Yes, some agreement with Simon here. I'm also involving Law of the Sea, but on top is Zinc White, number 25, Bring on the Night, 12, Irish Lullaby, and 17, Law of the Sea sneaks in there.
Bring it on. Number 5, Bring on the Night for me. Number 2, Calling the Wind for second. Number 6, A Horse with No Name. And 15, Novel Legend, Ascot Stakes. Don't miss it. Race 6 on day 1, Tuesday, is the Wolferton Stakes. It's a listed race. It's not a handicap, but it might as well be, because it looks fiendishly difficult. Lots of high quality, but very closely matched horses. Runners and riders, let's have a look at a few key players. Keep a close eye on number 1, Buckaroo. He's coming down in class here. Number 3, King of Conquest, and Francisco Clemente tying very closely on Goodwood form. We've also got plenty of other high quality horses, including Saga for the Gosdens in the Royal colours. I think let's start with Saga, Simon. This is a horse who I think polarizes opinions. We're going to look at him at the Royal meeting last year. What a turbulent week it was for Frankie Dettori. And I think the defeat of Saga, narrow that it was in the Britannia, raised some tensions in the camp.
It certainly did, but I think in fullness of time, I think we begin to understand that this horse may not be as straightforward as some people thought. And, he's one of these who looks a little bit unlucky in the run, but I'm not so sure that he's 100% resolute. So for me, it's always worth taking on. His record tells you that, Graham. He's worth taking on. I think the connections have a much better chance in the race.
Yeah, I'm a little wary of him, Maddy. People at Newmarket said they thought he should have won. I think there was a reason Frankie Dettori didn't really go for the heavy manners with the whip. I think he suspects that Saga doesn't really run for hard driving.
I'm sorry, Graham. I'm smiling because I'm in total agreement with Simon. I think this horse is hard to get everything right. And I think if it comes down to a battle between him and another in the final furlong, I'm not sure he's got the minerals. He's got what it takes to get the job done. But he's clearly got a lot of talent, and we have to respect his connections.
We can go around in circles talking about jockey bookings. Frankie is aboard Saga. How could he get off a horse owned by the King in Royal Ascot week at his final Royal Ascot? But the Gosdens have another powerful contender in this Francisco Clemente, who was pretty unlucky at Goodwood last time, Simon. He blew the home turn and still did well to get pretty close to King of Conquest.
Exactly, and that is the key piece of form for this race, in my opinion. He did do everything wrong. It's not a track where you can get away with a poor start. He just didn't come around the bend. He had steering problems, showed a lot of signs of greenness, but I think he's going to be much more better suited by the test here at Ascot. There's no doubt about that, and that horse is open to improvement. But he's up against one here from the Godolphin team, King of Conquest, who did beat him that day. You might argue that he probably had the run of the race. He was better positioned throughout. But I like the way he's gone through the rankings. The trainer is incredibly bullish about him. Charlie Appleby feels that he's going to be a proper pattern horse as the year progresses. This is a great stepping stone for him, and I think he'll confirm the form with the John Gosden horse, Francesco Clemente, who is nevertheless a serious player here. I could see these two really fighting it out and replicating that Goodwood form.
Two key players there, Maddy, but I think me and you are on the Buckaroo Express here, aren't we?
We are, yeah. He's got that Group 1 form in the book, a muddling pre-Dispahan that he ran in last time. He finished 4th, but that doesn't tell the whole story. You could have thrown a blanket over all of them in that race. Once thought of as a classic contender, he's got a lot of ability, and for me, he's just the best horse in this race.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think he's somewhat down in class here. Really good first time out. Had a truncated season last time around. Let's go numbers. I'll kick us off. Number 1, Buckaroo is my idea of the winner here. 9, Francesco Clemente is on the up. Number 3, King of Conquest, his old rival, has to be in there. And number 6, Cadillac, who ran very well, I think, to be second in this race last year, and fresh from a good win at Epsom. Maddy, first 4?
Yeah, lots of agreement going on with this one, Graham. I'm with you. Buckaroo on top, number 1. King of Conquest, who Simon likes. I also like number 3. Then 8, Check and Challenge, and 2, Fox's Tails. 2 wild cards who could offer a spot of value.
Well, for me, of course, it's King of Conquest, horse number 3. For the places, Francesco Clemente, number 9. I also like Bolshobali, number 5. We should pay respect to that one. And Solid Stone, number 16, can make the frame as well.
Good luck in the Wolferton. 7th and final race on day 1 of Royal Ascot 2023 is another tough handicap, really tough. It's the Copper Horse handicap. It's a mile and 6 furlongs, and it's got a horse who might be a certainty, might be opposable. The horse in question is Vauban. It's Willie Mullins, it's Ryan Moore, it's a high-quality hurdler who might, just might, be extremely well handicapped. But the betting is going to reflect that, especially if Ryan Moore has had a good day. Others to mention, Get Shirty, number 1, won this race last year. Sam Cooke is super consistent. Point King is lightly raced, open to improvement. Ade, more on him in a moment. And Ruling Dynasty, lightly raced Godolphin Raider. But I think we have to start, Maddy and Simon, with the likely hot favourite, Vauban. And it's a straightforward question. Maddy Playle, with or against the favourite?
I'm against him. We know he's a huge talent from his efforts over jumps, but we also don't know what he's going to be like on the flat. And the key thing for me here is ground. He will have never faced anything like this in his life.
That's assuming we don't get rain.
Yes, assuming we don't get rain. His sire wasn't very keen on good ground either. And I think this is going to be a totally different challenge to anything he's ever faced. We know he's a good horse, but on balance, on the prices, he's not for me.
160 rated hurdler, rating off a mark of 100, 101 here. You can understand why people are seeing him as a potential blot.
Without a doubt, but it comes down to one thing. I agree with Maddy. I think if we get a deluge, I think he's going to be a serious threat to everything. But I do think he would need significant rain to win this. I'm a little bit concerned about conditions staying on top for him. And if they do, I think he's going to be vulnerable here.
Yeah, absolutely a price thing with me for Vauban. I'd much rather back his stablemate Bring On the Night at a short price than him. I think you run well, but this is deep. Simon, what's the horse that you fancy most here?
Well, I like one that's going to be a decent price here. This is Our Day for the Archie Watson team. Again, had a good chat with Holly Doyle about her chances on this horse, and she liked the way he performed on his reappearance at Ripon. That was back in April. He's had a bit of time since then, but he's really come forward, she said. He's the difference in this horse in his coat. He's really tightened up for the run. He's got a bit of back class, this horse. Used to be with Owen Burrows. I think the step-up in trip will really suit him. Won't mind the ground. Graham, he ticks all the boxes at a price.
Maddy, have you got a long price one for us?
I've got a few that I'm going to involve in the other places, but Ruling Dynasty for me is very interesting here for the Godolphin team. Very lightly raced, just won a novice event at Haydock last time, but the style in which he did it was deeply impressive. We know these connections have previous for running lightly raced horses in races like this and them taking a big step forward. I think he's going to be a really exciting one to get behind.
Cannot believe that two such eminent authorities like this can miss Point King in a race like this. Joseph O'Brien could be in for a good day. He's a lightly raced horse, only had 5 or 6 runs. He had a really, really impressive middle part to last season, then a break. I thought he was very good last time when just worn down. Point King for me, number 4, number 7, Vauban, number 15, a Northern Raider who's very much under the radar called Cunningham, and number 2, Sam Cooke, who is super consistent. Maddy, first 4 in the Copper Horse, if you will.
Yeah, Ruling Dynasty, number 14 on top, followed by 7, Vauban. Even with my concerns about the ground, we know he's got the class. He's got to be in there. And then 2 bigger prices, number 10, Raymond Tusk. A very good effort last time out, has previous in races like this. And I'm with you, 15, Chillingham, the last one in.
Simon?
Our Day for Holly Doyle, horse number 6, who's drawn 6. That's a good starting point as well. For the places, I've got to have Vauban in there. Just in case it does rain, perhaps. That's number 7. Point King, absolutely, in there in the mix, number 4. And Berkshire Rocco to step forward. Class form, of course, a couple of years ago, number 12.
Let's hope you have the right horse for the Copper Horse.